Welcome everyone. I'm Steven.
And I'm Tamara.
And we're here to represent Stamina for Life.
Yes.
Now, over the years, a lot of our friends and even people that we don't know have asked us, hey, we've either heard you guys speak or we were referred to you by friends. Is it possible for us to be able to do some pre-marriage counseling with you? And we live in the Detroit metro area. And so that has not always been a possibility.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even though we're passionate about this, we have had to say, we just can't do it. Or our schedule has been so packed and we've not been able to add anyone to it. And so, ding, we had a wonderful idea. What if we were able to take some of the material that we share in a pre-marriage counseling set of sessions, and what if we were able to make that available to people virtually?
Yeah. So we came up with the idea of coming up with this series, and we're making this available to you. So if you're watching this, you have purchased the series, and we want to thank you for supporting the ministry. And there are a couple of things, though, we want to make you aware of, right? Because there are some expectations.
Absolutely.
All right. So first of all, the expectation that you should look out for is to be challenged. Absolutely. This is, by all means, this is a serious thing, being prepared and preparing yourself for marriage. And we know there are going to be some people who probably are already married, right? Who will watch this series. No matter where you find yourself in the process, we want you to know to expect to be challenged.
Yeah, when we first went and did our pre-marriage counseling, I was afraid, and later on found out she was too.
Yeah.
We're afraid that we're going to go in and we're going to talk to these people and they're going to tell us, you shouldn't get married.
Right.
Or no, you can't get married. And but that's not what they did at all. Radically changed our perspective on what pre-marriage counseling was. And so, but expect to be challenged nonetheless. Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't be afraid of the extreme, but also you should expect that you will be challenged in the process.
And with that challenge, we're going to be asking you to reflect on your personal life, whether it's your upbringing, your family, your day-to-day life experiences, what have you. So we definitely want to prepare you for that.
So be ready and expect to have to open up.
Yeah. And along with that comes some emotional things, right? So don't be afraid of your emotions, okay? That is a part of the process of discovering who you are and how you're actually going to show up in your relationship with others.
Now, I just told you don't be afraid, but now you might have to be afraid because we are going to ask you some questions that are going to challenge you to explore your emotions. Mm-hmm. And to my fellas out there, some of us as guys, sometimes it's not as easy to express emotions, but the same can be true for some of the ladies as well.
Yeah. And I know that sounds a little crazy, right? Or maybe a little bit scary. We keep talking about this thing, fear, right? But the thing we also want you to remember is this: we're not going to cut you open and just leave you bare. We want to give you tools. We are very big on tools. In fact, you cannot live this life without them.
That's right. Now, notice what Tamara just said. We're going to give you tools. And I think the implication there is very, very important. It should not, cannot be missed. We are going to give you tools, which means that you're going to have to do the work. Expect.
You got to use them.
Expect to do the work.
Yeah.
As counselors, one of the things that we've learned is we are never going to invest more energy into a couple than that couple is willing to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
So we're sharing tools with you so that you can do the work.
Yeah.
In fact, you should never go to any counseling session and expect that they're going to come and they're going to do all the work for you.
Yeah.
The work takes place not just in the session, but afterwards.
And speaking of tools, those tools are going to be implemented in daily exercises. So you will be given homework, okay? But this homework is going to be really, really, really good, okay? It's going to help you to be able to navigate through some of the things that we're going to be discussing with you and talking about. It's going to be tools that you're going to be able to use not just on that day, but continuously throughout the relationship, okay? Expect to probably give about an hour for the video time and about 30 to 40 minutes for discussion. And afterwards, after the video is done. But again, That's up to you, right? For some people, if the muscle of talking and conversating is not something that you've exercised yet in your relationship, don't worry. Maybe you can only take 5-10 minutes, right? But expect for that muscle to be built over time, and for your discussion period after the video is done to be lengthened and drawn out. Something else that you can expect is going to be after every session, there will be a set of questions for you to answer.
Yeah. One of the questions is, what did you find helpful? So Tamara is a note taker and she loves to take notes and what have you. Not so much. But we're going to encourage everyone during this process to have a little notebook. And the reason why is so that as you're listening and as you're going through, you can jot down things so that when it comes to the end and you have to deal with that first question, which is, what did you find helpful or what stood out to you? You'll have something down already.
Another question that you're going to be asked is, where or how were you challenged? That is the point of the exercises. We expect that each one of us, or each one of you rather, will be challenged in the process. And so we want you to be able to take note of that and be able to answer that, whether it's taking notes in your notebook or maybe having the conversation with one another. So definitely that's going to be one question to answer.
And then finally, it's just 3 simple questions. The final question is, so what now? What are you going to do about it? Okay, I learned this, or I was reminded about that. And that's all wonderful. But what we really want to know, and we want you to demonstrate simply by writing down, is now what? I learned about rejection. And now when I experience those emotions, this is how I'm going to respond. So this is the what am I going to do about it section. So those 3 questions are going to come at the end of each and every one of the sessions.
Now, those are our questions to you, but if you find that you have questions at the end of the sessions, you can feel free to email us, right? And you can give them the email address. What is the email address?
It's staminaforlife.com, and that's STAMENA, the number 4, LIFE.com.
So you can email your questions there. If at the end of any of the videos or any of the exercises that we ask you to do, if you have any questions and you need help, you can reach us there.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, we want to finish out in this introductory video just by sharing a little bit of what it is that got Tamara and I into this. About 20 years ago, we got married, and it was a fascinating time, not just because of our marriage, but because of friends and family members and friends of family members and family of friends who all seemed to be getting married. So we not only had our own wedding, but we were attending other weddings, and it was just amazing. And something happened within about 4 or 5 years of those marriages. What was it, Tamara?
We discovered, or as time was going on, we saw a lot of those marriages falling apart, yea, even ending in divorce. And so it sparked the question of why? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, you see 2 people, of course, at a wedding, and they seem so in love. And when you know them, there are so many things that they have in common, whether it's faith or whether it's, where they see themselves going, the direction, how they want to live their lives. They've got all this in common. They're in love with one another. And for Christians, they actually love the Lord. And yet, 4 or 5 years into it,
so that was pretty devastating for us to watch. But when I look back on it, I thank God that we had the opportunity to see these things happening, so that we began to ask questions, right? And we began to want to know, like, how can we prepare ourselves, right, to have a better foundation? Because I think both of us can admit we came into our marriage pretty broken.
Yeah. How can we protect our marriage from some of the same pitfalls that we've seen other people that we really love and care about, that we've seen them experiencing? So that was extremely, extremely important. And another thing was, well, why?
Yeah.
How do people go from being passionately, even madly in a good way, in love, to the point where they can't stand each other, and don't want to be together anymore? So we wanted to discover what was going on in the relationships of our friends and family members, and we wanted to find out why this stuff was taking place, how those things were happening.
And it's a word that you're going to hear us talk about quite often throughout the series, right? Which is this ghost word, irreconcilable differences, right? We wanted to know what were those things, right? And could they have been prevented?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of the introduction. Now you know why we were here, rooted and grounded really in trying to figure out what happens in people's marriages that cause them to fall apart, and how can we protect our marriage so that some of the same experiences that others have had we can avoid. So get ready.